The smoke rose thick and black from the ruined city below. Vera Thorne stood at the edge of the transport ship's ramp, her boots crunching on broken glass and debris as she stepped onto what used to be a busy street. The buildings around her were nothing but shells now, their walls cracked and crumbling. Fires still burned in some places, sending orange light flickering across the gray dust that covered everything. She had seen destroyed cities before, too many of them. But this one felt different somehow. Maybe it was because she knew civilians had lived here, families, children. The intelligence report said this place had been evacuated before the bombing. But Vera had learned not to trust intelligence reports completely. Her team spread out behind her. 6 soldiers in dark combat armor, their weapons ready. They moved quietly through the rubble, checking for survivors or threats. The Draken Empire and the human-led coalition had been at war for 3 years now, and both sides had stopped being careful about where their bombs fell. Vera activated her scanner, watching the small screen on her wrist light up with heat signatures. Most of them were just fires or cooling debris, nothing living. She frowned and moved forward, stepping over a fallen beam that had once held up someone's roof. The Draken were terrifying enemies. They stood nearly 8 feet tall with scales like armor and claws that could tear through metal. They breathed fire and fought with a fury that seemed impossible to stop. Vera had fought them dozens of times, had watched them kill her friends, had killed plenty of them herself. She tried not to think of them as people. It was easier that way. But this city made it harder. She saw toys in the rubble, broken furniture, pictures on walls that somehow still stood. The Draken had lives outside of war. She had always known that deep down, but seeing it made it real in a way that hurt. Her scanner beeped. A heat signature, small and weak, about 40 meters ahead. Vera signaled to her team and moved toward it, her rifle raised. It could be a survivor. It could be a trap. Both had happened before. She found the source underneath what had been a home. The roof had collapsed, but some of the walls still stood, creating a small pocket of space. Vera knelt down and looked inside, her helmet light cutting through the darkness. 2 eyes stared back at her. Large eyes, bright yellow with vertical pupils. Draken eyes. Vera's finger tightened on her trigger, but she didn't fire. The eyes were too low to the ground, too small. She adjusted her light and saw the creature clearly. It was a child. A Draken child. No bigger than a human 6-year-old. Its scales were a pale blue-green, not the dark red or black of adult warriors. It had small horns on its head, barely developed, and its claws looked fragile. The child was covered in dust and trembling, pressed back against a fallen wall. Vera stared. She had never seen a Draken child before. She wasn't sure anyone in her unit had. The Draken kept their young far from battle, hidden away on protected worlds. What was this child doing here? The child made a sound, a soft whimper that sounded almost like a human child crying. It tried to make itself smaller, pulling its arms in close. Vera slowly lowered her weapon. She raised one hand, palm out, trying to show she meant no harm. The gesture felt stupid even as she did it. Why would a Draken child understand human body language? But the child's eyes focused on her hand. It stopped whimpering. Vera's team leader, Lieutenant Amy Cooper, came up beside her. "Commander, what did you find?" Her voice was tense, ready for combat. "A child," Vera said quietly. "Draken. Maybe 6 cycles old." Amy stared at the small creature. "Orders?" That was the question, wasn't it? Military protocol was clear. Any Draken found in a combat zone was to be detained or eliminated. No exceptions. A Draken child might seem harmless now, but it would grow into a warrior. It would fight against humans. It might kill soldiers like Amy or Vera herself, but it was still a child. Right now, in this moment, it was just a scared, lonely child who had survived something horrible. The child moved slightly, crawling forward a few inches. It opened its mouth and spoke in broken Galactic Common, the trade language most species used. Please help." The words were slurred, the accent thick but understandable. Vera felt something break inside her chest. She had heard plenty of enemies beg before. It never affected her. But this was different. This was a child using probably the only words it knew in a language it barely understood, hoping the scary alien with the gun might show mercy. "Please," the child said again. Its voice got smaller, more desperate. "Can you be my mother for a few days?" Vera froze. The request was so strange, so specific. A mother for a few days. As if the child knew its real mother was gone but hoped someone might fill that role just for a little while. just until the fear went away. Amy grabbed Vera's arm. "Commander, we need to move. The extraction window closes in 20 minutes. Vera didn't move. She stared at the child, at those wide yellow eyes that looked at her with something like hope. She thought about what would happen if she followed protocol. She would report the child. It would be detained, studied, probably interrogated even at this age. Eventually it would be sent to a prison camp where Draken civilians were kept. Those camps were legal under coalition law, but they weren't kind places. Or she could do something else. Something that would probably get her court-martialed. Something stupid and dangerous and completely against every rule she had sworn to follow. She unclipped the thermal blanket from her belt and held it out toward the child. "Come here," she said softly. "I won't hurt you." The child hesitated, then crawled forward. It was limping, one of its small legs injured. When it got close enough, Vera wrapped the blanket around it. The child was cold despite its scales, shivering in the evening air. "What are you doing?" Amy hissed. "Something I probably shouldn't," Vera said. She picked up the child, surprised by how light it was. The child tensed in her arms but didn't struggle. "I'm taking her back to base." "Her?" "I think it's a her. The scales are lighter colored. That's female in Draken, according to the briefings." Vera stood up, holding the child against her chest. The child's head rested against her shoulder, and Vera could feel the small body shaking. Amy looked like she wanted to argue, but she just shook her head. "This is going to cause problems." "I know. Big problems, I know." They made their way back to the transport ship, the rest of the team looking confused and worried when they saw what Vera was carrying. Nobody said anything during the flight back to the base. The child fell asleep in Vera's arms, exhausted from fear and injury. Vera stared down at her, at the small face that looked almost peaceful now. She didn't know what she was going to do. She didn't have a plan beyond getting the child somewhere safe. But as the transport ship rose above the burning city, Vera made a silent promise to the sleeping creature in her arms. She would protect her. Somehow, against all the rules and all the hate and all the fear, she would find a way to keep this child safe, even if it cost her everything. When they landed at the military outpost on the nearby moon, Vera knew the trouble would start immediately. She was right. Captain Blake Morrison was waiting at the landing pad, his arms crossed and his face angry. "Commander Thorne," he said, his voice cold. "Report." Vera stepped off the transport, still carrying the child. "Sir, I recovered a survivor from the bombing site. A non-combatant, age approximately 6 cycles." Blake stared at the child, his face turning red. "That is a Draken." "Yes, sir." "A Draken child. And you brought it here, to a military installation, where we plan operations against the Draken Empire." Blake's voice rose with each sentence. "Are you completely insane?" Other soldiers had gathered around now, watching the confrontation. Some looked curious. Some looked angry. A few looked at the child with something like pity. The child woke up, disturbed by the loud voices. She looked around, her yellow eyes wide and frightened again. She pressed closer to Vera, making small sounds of distress. "Sir," Vera said carefully, "this child is not a threat. She's injured and alone. Coalition law protects non-combatants, including children of enemy species. Coalition law also says we can detain enemy nationals found in combat zones," Blake shot back. "That thing needs to be locked up until command decides what to do with it." "She," Vera said. "Not it, she." Blake's face got even redder. "Fine, she needs to be detained." "Hand her over." Vera took a step back. "No, sir." The gathered soldiers went silent. Refusing a direct order was serious. It could mean prison time, not just discharge. Blake stared at her. "Excuse me?" I said, "No, sir. I found her. I brought her here. I take full responsibility for her. If you want to detain her, you'll have to detain me too." "That can be arranged," Blake said. "Then arrange it." Vera met his eyes, not backing down. "But this child has lost everything. Her home, her family, probably her entire clan. The least we can do is treat her with basic decency." The two of them stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Blake shook his head. "You're confined to quarters until I hear from command. Both of you. And Thorne? You just ended your career." Vera nodded slowly. "Maybe, but I can live with that." She carried the child toward the barracks, aware of all the eyes following them. The child looked up at her and spoke softly in Galactic Common. "Thank you." Vera felt tears sting her eyes, but she blinked them away. You're... Vera's quarters were small and plain, like everything else on the military base. A bed, a desk, a small bathroom, and not much else. She set the child down on her bed and looked at her properly for the first time in good light. The child was thin, too thin. Her pale blue-green scales were dull in places where they should shine. The injury on her leg was a burn, probably from fire or an explosion. Her small horns were cracked on one side. She looked up at Vera with those big yellow eyes, still scared but also curious. "What's your name?" Vera asked, speaking slowly in Galactic Common. The child tilted her head. "Zira," she said. Her voice was soft and high like wind chimes. "Zira. That's pretty. I'm Vera." "Vera," Zira repeated, getting the pronunciation almost right. She looked around the room, taking everything in. Her tail, thin and delicate, wrapped around her own legs nervously. Vera knelt down to be at eye level with her. "Are you hungry?" Zira nodded quickly. That was a problem. Vera had no idea what Draken children ate. She knew adult Draken could eat meat, but did children need something different? Human children couldn't eat the same things as adults when they were very young. Maybe Draken were the same. She pulled out her personal ration pack and opened it carefully. Inside was a protein bar, some dried fruit, and a pouch of water. She offered the dried fruit first, figuring it was the safest option. Zira sniffed it carefully, then took a small bite. Her eyes widened and she ate the rest quickly, making happy sounds. Vera smiled and gave her the rest of the fruit and the water. The protein bar she kept back, unsure if it was safe. While Zira ate, Vera cleaned the burn on her leg as best she could with her medical kit. Zira flinched and made small crying sounds, but she held still, seeming to understand that Vera was trying to help. The burn wasn't too deep, thankfully. It would heal if kept clean. There was a knock on the door. Vera tensed, putting herself between Zira and the door. "Who is it?" "Amy," came the reply. Vera relaxed a little and opened the door. Amy Cooper stood there with her arms full of supplies. Blankets, food rations, a small first aid kit, and something that looked like a stuffed toy. "Figured you might need these," Amy said, stepping inside. She looked at Zira, who had pressed herself into the corner of the bed, watching Amy with wide eyes. "How is she?" "Scared, hurt, hungry, but alive." Vera took the supplies gratefully. "Thank you for this." Amy set everything down on the desk. "Half the base thinks you're crazy. The other half thinks you're either really brave or really stupid. What do you think?" Amy was quiet for a moment. She looked at Zira again, really looked at her. The child was so small, so vulnerable. "I think maybe it doesn't matter. That's a kid. Whatever else she is, she's just a kid." Zira made a small sound. Amy pulled out the stuffed toy, a simple thing shaped like a bear from Earth. She held it out carefully. "Here, for you." Zira looked at Vera first, as if asking permission. Vera nodded. Slowly, Zira reached out and took the toy. She held it close, running her small claws over the soft fabric. Something like a smile appeared on her face. "I think she likes it," Vera said softly. "Good." Amy turned back to Vera. "Blake is furious. He's already sent messages to command. Admiral Brooks is coming here personally to deal with this situation." Vera felt her stomach drop. Admiral Helen Brooks was known for being strict and by the book. If anyone would enforce protocol, it would be her. When? 3 days. Maybe 4. Amy put a hand on Vera's shoulder. "Vera, you know what they're going to order, right? They'll either send her to a detention camp or use her for intelligence. Either way, it won't be good for her." "I know." Vera looked at Zira, who was now curled up on the bed with the bear, looking more relaxed than before. "But I can't just let them take her. Not after she asked me to be her mother." Amy's eyes widened. "She what?" Vera explained what Zira had said in the ruins. Amy listened, her expression shifting from surprise to sadness. "That's heartbreaking," Amy said quietly. "She must have lost her real mother in the bombing." "Probably. I don't know how to ask her about it. I don't want to upset her more than she already is." Vera sat down on the floor, suddenly exhausted. "I don't know what I'm doing, Amy. I don't know how to take care of a child. Especially not a Draken child." "Then we figure it out," Amy said firmly. "You're not doing this alone. I'll help. We'll both figure it out." Over the next 2 days, Vera and Amy learned about caring for Zira. The child was surprisingly easy in some ways. She didn't complain, even when she was uncomfortable. She was polite and tried hard to communicate, even though she only knew a few words in Galactic Common. She loved the stuffed bear Amy had given her and carried it everywhere, but she also had nightmares. She would wake up crying, calling out words in the Draken language that Vera couldn't understand. The first time it happened, Vera rushed to comfort her without thinking, pulling Zira close and rocking her gently. Zira had clung to her, her small body shaking with sobs. "Mother," Zira had whispered in Galactic Common. "Want mother?" Vera's heart broke. She held Zira tighter and hummed softly, an old song her own mother had sung to her as a child. It seemed to help. Zira calmed down slowly and fell back asleep in Vera's arms. By the third day, Zira was starting to trust Vera more. She followed her around the small quarters, watching everything Vera did with intense curiosity. She tried to help with small tasks like making the bed or organizing supplies. It was clear she had been taught to be helpful, even at her young age. Vera started teaching her more Galactic Common words. Bed, chair, water, food. Zira repeated each word carefully, her pronunciation improving quickly. She was smart, Vera realized. Very smart. During one of these lessons, Zira suddenly said something that made Vera stop cold. "Big ships coming," Zira said, struggling with the words. "Many ships." To human world, Vera's blood went cold. "What? Zira, what do you mean?" Zira frowned, trying to find the right words. She grabbed a piece of paper and a pen from Vera's desk and started drawing. She drew crude pictures of ships, lots of them, and then a circle that must represent a planet. She pointed to the planet. "Humans here." Then she pointed to the ships. "Draken, come soon." "Many die," Vera stared at the drawing. "You heard about an attack? Before your home was destroyed?" Zira nodded. Father talking. Other warriors planning, big attack on human world. Many people there. Kill them all. Vera felt sick. If this was true, it meant millions of lives were in danger. But how could she verify it? Zira was a child. She might have misunderstood what she heard. Or it might be old information, a plan that had already been cancelled or changed. "What world?" Vera asked. "Do you know the name?" Zira thought hard, her small face scrunched up in concentration. New Haven, is that right?" Vera's breath caught. New Haven was one of humanity's largest colony worlds. 3 billion people lived there. If the Draken launched a major attack there and succeeded, it would be the worst loss humanity had suffered in the entire war. "When?" Vera asked urgently. "When is the attack?" Zira held up her small clawed hands, showing all her fingers. Then she did it again. 20 days? 20 weeks? "Festival," Zira said. "Attack during human festival. When guards not watching good. The Festival of Founding. It was New Haven's biggest celebration, held once a year to commemorate the colony's establishment. And it was in 18 days. Vera stood up, her mind racing. She had to report this, but if she did, they would take Zira away immediately. They would interrogate her, trying to get every detail. They might even hurt her, thinking she was lying or holding back information. Zira was already traumatized. That kind of treatment could break her completely. But if Vera didn't report it and the attack happened, billions could die. How could she weigh one child's well-being against billions of lives? Amy came in at that moment carrying more food supplies. She took one look at Vera's face and knew something was wrong. "What happened?" Vera explained about Zira's information. Amy went pale. "We have to tell command. I know. But they'll take her. I know that too." Vera looked at Zira, who was watching them both with worried eyes. The child knew something was wrong but didn't understand what. "Maybe we can protect her," Amy said. "We can insist that any debriefing has to be done gently. That she's treated well. You really think Blake or the Admiral will care about that? They'll see her as a tool, not a person." Vera felt tears burning in her eyes. "I promised her she was safe. And millions of people need to be safe too," Amy said gently. "Vera, I know this is horrible, but you know what you have to do." Vera did know. She hated it, but she knew. She knelt down in front of Zira and took the child's small hands in her own. "Zira, I need to ask you some more questions about the ships. About the attack you heard your father talking about. It's important. Can you help me?" Zira looked scared, but she nodded. "Help you? You are mother now." "I help?" Those words made it even harder. But Vera asked her questions, gentle and patient, and Zira answered as best she could. She talked about overhearing her father and other warriors planning. She had hidden and listened because she was curious, even though she wasn't supposed to be there. She remembered details about timing, about using asteroids to hide the ships, about striking when the defenses were running with smaller crews. It took hours, but by the end, Vera had enough information to write a full report. She sent it directly to Captain Blake with a note saying, the interview was worse than Vera had feared. Captain Blake brought 2 intelligence officers, both of whom looked at Zira like she was an object to be studied rather than a frightened child. They wanted to separate Vera from Zira for the questioning. But Zira had started crying and clinging to Vera so desperately that even Blake had to admit it wouldn't work. So Vera sat with Zira in her lap, while the officers asked questions. At first they were patient enough. But as Zira struggled to explain things in her limited galactic common, they grew frustrated. One officer, a thin man named Peters, started speaking more harshly. Where exactly did your father say the ships would hide? He demanded. Zira flinched and pressed closer to Vera. In rocks. Space rocks. She already told you this, Vera said, her voice sharp. We need exact coordinates. Specific locations. Peters leaned forward. Did he mention any numbers? Any star charts? She's 6 years old, Vera said. She overheard a military planning session. She doesn't know coordinates. Then she's not very useful, is she? Peters sat back, looking annoyed. Vera felt anger rise in her chest. She's given you enough information to save billions of lives and you're complaining because she doesn't have technical details? She's a child, not a spy. Blake held up a hand. Commander Thorne, control yourself. He looked at Zira, his expression unreadable. The child has provided valuable intelligence, but we need to verify it. We need to know if she's telling the truth or if she's confused or if this is deliberate misinformation. She's 6, Vera repeated. How could this be deliberate? The Draken are not like us. We don't know how they train their young. This could be a trick. Zira, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. Not trick. Not lying. My mother died. My father died. My home burned. I saw humans bomb my city. I hate war. I don't want more death. Her galactic common was broken, but her meaning was clear. Tears ran down her scaled cheeks. I just want mother. Want safe. The room went quiet. Even Peters looked uncomfortable. Blake cleared his throat. We're done for now. Commander Thorne, you and the child will remain confined to quarters. Admiral Brooks arrives tomorrow. She'll decide what happens next. After they left, Vera held Zira while the child cried. Amy came in later and found them both on the floor, exhausted from emotion. She sat down with them and didn't say anything, just put her arms around both of them. The next morning brought Admiral Helen Brooks. She was a tall woman with gray hair pulled back severely, and eyes that seemed to see everything. She came to Vera's quarters alone, which surprised everyone. Vera stood at attention, Zira hiding behind her legs. The Admiral looked at them both for a long moment. At ease, Commander, she said finally. Her voice was stern but not unkind. She looked down at Zira. So you're the child causing all this trouble? Zira peeked out from behind Vera but didn't say anything. The Admiral pulled out a chair and sat down, making herself less intimidating. I've read the reports. I've read your intelligence and I've read Commander Thorne's statements. I've also read the initial analysis from our tactical teams. She paused. Your information is credible. We're moving the fleet to New Haven now to prepare defenses. If you're right, you'll have saved countless lives. Zira seemed to understand enough of this. She looked up at Vera, who nodded encouragingly. However, the Admiral continued, this presents a problem. You're the daughter of a Draken warrior, and you've provided intelligence that will be used against your own people. When the Draken Empire finds out, they'll consider you a traitor. They'll want you returned so they can punish you according to their laws. She's a child, Vera said. She doesn't deserve punishment for trying to prevent more death. I agree, but the Draken won't see it that way. The Admiral stood up. The Empire has already sent diplomatic messages demanding your return. They claim you're the daughter of a high-ranking matriarch and that keeping you constitutes a war crime on our part. Vera felt cold. You can't send her back. They'll kill her. Probably. The Admiral's expression was grim. But if we don't return her, we risk making our diplomatic position worse. Other species in the coalition are already nervous about human aggression. If we appear to be holding a child hostage, it could damage our alliances. So politics matters more than a child's life? Vera couldn't keep the bitterness out of her voice. Everything matters, Commander. My job is to weigh all of it and make impossible choices. The Admiral looked at Zira again. I'm giving you 3 days. After that, we have to make a decision. Use that time wisely. After she left, Vera felt paralyzed with fear and anger. Amy came in and found her sitting on the floor again, Zira in her lap. We could run, Amy said quietly. I have contacts. Smugglers who owe me favors. Run where? They'd find us eventually. Maybe, but at least we'd have tried. Amy knelt down. Vera, that little girl asked you to be her mother. Are you going to let them take her without a fight? Vera looked at Zira, who was playing with her stuffed bear, making it walk across her small legs. The child hummed softly, a strange musical sound that might have been a Draken lullaby. She looked so innocent, so trusting. No, Vera said finally, I'm not. Over the next 3 days, something remarkable happened. The story of Zira spread through the base, and soldiers who had been hostile or uncertain began to change their minds. It started with small things. Someone left a box of safe food items outside Vera's door, clearly researched to make sure they wouldn't harm Draken biology. Someone else left children's books with pictures. Amy brought Zira to the base medical bay for a proper examination of her injuries, and the doctor, a woman named Lisa Barnes, was gentle and kind. She treated Zira's burns and gave her vitamins to help with her malnourishment. When Zira flinched at the scanner, Lisa showed her how it worked on a stuffed animal first, making it into a game. She's just like any other kid, Lisa told Vera afterward. Scared when she's hurt, curious about new things, needing comfort and safety. I don't care what species she is. The biggest change came from Sergeant Kyle Bennett, the man who had been most hostile toward Zira. His brother had died fighting the Draken, and he had made his hatred clear from the start. He had glared at Zira every time he saw her, making harsh comments about how she would grow up to kill humans. But on the 3rd day, he approached Vera in the hallway. He looked uncomfortable, his hands clenched at his sides. Commander, he said stiffly, can I talk to you? Vera was immediately wary. What about? The kid, Zira. He took a breath. I wanted to apologize. I've been thinking about what my brother would say if he could see me right now. He fought to protect people, not to hate children. And I've been watching her. She's scared all the time. She cries at night. I can hear it through the walls. He paused. My brother had a daughter. She'd be about Zira's age now. I think about what I'd want someone to do if she was alone and scared in enemy territory. He pulled something from his pocket. It was a small carved wooden horse, beautifully detailed. I made this. Took me 2 nights. I thought maybe she'd like it. Vera stared at the carving, then at Kyle. Thank you, she said softly. When she gave the horse to Zira, the child's face lit up. She ran her small claws over the smooth wood, making happy sounds. She tried to say thank you in Galactic Common, but struggled with the words. Instead, she hugged the horse close to her chest, right next to her bear. That night, Zira was more talkative than she had been before. She told Vera about her mother, describing her in a mix of Galactic Common and Draken words. Her mother had been strong and brave, a warrior who sang songs about the old days when Draken flew freely among the stars. Her mother had taught her to be kind to smaller creatures and to always tell the truth. Mother said truth important, Zira said carefully, even when truth is hard. So I tell truth about attack. Mother would want me to save lives. Vera felt tears on her cheeks. Your mother sounds like she was wonderful. She was best mother. Zira looked up at Vera. But she gone now. You are mother now. Is that okay? Vera pulled Zira close. Yes, little one. That's okay. But even as she said it, she knew their time was running out. Tomorrow, the Admiral would return for her decision. Tomorrow, Zira might be taken away. Vera had to do something, but she didn't know what. That night, after Zira fell asleep, Vera sat at her desk and wrote a message to an old friend. Captain Luis Martinez ran a civilian transport ship and had smuggled refugees out of war zones before. He owed Vera his life from a mission years ago. She explained the situation and asked if he could help. His response came within hours. I'll be at the station in 2 days. Doc 7. I'll wait as long as I can. Amy found the message the next morning. She looked at Vera for a long moment. You're really doing this? Running with her? Do you have a better idea? No, Amy smiled sadly. But I can help. I can create a distraction during the shift change tomorrow. Give you time to get to the docks. Amy, if you help me, they'll punish you too. I know, but I can't live with myself if I don't. That little girl deserves better than what's waiting for her here. Amy looked at Zira, who was still sleeping. She deserves a chance. The next morning, Admiral Brooks came back, but before she could speak, alarms blared through the base. An emergency drill, unauthorized and chaotic. Amy had triggered it somehow. Guards ran everywhere, confused and trying to determine if it was real or false. The Starling shook violently as laser fire streaked past. Louise cursed and pushed the engines harder, weaving through space debris to make them a harder target. Vera strapped Zira into one of the passenger seats, making sure the safety restraints were tight. "Stay here, don't move," Vera told her. Zira's eyes were wide with fear, but she nodded. Vera made her way to the cockpit, holding onto the walls as the ship jerked and spun. Through the viewport, she could see 3 military pursuit ships gaining on them. They were smaller but faster than the Starling. "How long until we can jump?" she asked Louise. 4 minutes to the jump point, but they'll catch us in 3. Louise glanced at her. "I'm sorry, Vera, I don't think we're going to make it." Vera's mind raced. They couldn't fight 3 military ships. They couldn't outrun them. They were trapped. A voice crackled over the communication system. "Civilian transport Starling, this is Captain Blake Morrison. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Commander Thorne, you are under arrest for desertion, theft of military intelligence assets, and violation of direct orders. Surrender now and face trial. Continue running and you'll be fired upon." Vera grabbed the communication device. "Blake, listen to me. You know what will happen if you take Zira back. The Draken will kill her. She's just a child. She's an enemy combatant's daughter and a source of military intelligence. Her feelings and her future are not my concern. You have 30 seconds to comply." Vera looked at Luis. He looked back at her with sad eyes. "Your call, Vera, but if we keep running, they will shoot us down. I have no weapons. We can't fight back." Vera closed her eyes. She thought about Zira, strapped into her seat in the cargo bay, clutching her stuffed animals. She thought about the child's voice asking if she could be her mother for a few days. She thought about the promise she had made to keep her safe, but she also thought about Luis, who would die if they kept running. And she thought about the possibility, however small, that maybe she could still protect Zira somehow if they surrendered. Maybe the Admiral would show mercy. Maybe there was still a chance. "I'm sorry," she whispered to Luis. Then she pressed the communication button. "Blake, we're cutting engines. Don't fire. I'm surrendering." Luis looked relieved and sad at the same time. He powered down the engines and the Starling drifted to a stop. The 3 military ships surrounded them, weapons still locked on. Vera went back to Zira. The child had tears running down her face, but she wasn't making any sound. She just looked at Vera with those big yellow eyes, full of trust and confusion. "I'm sorry, little one," Vera said, unbuckling the restraints and pulling Zira into her arms. "I tried." "I know," Zira whispered. "You good mother. You tried." They were brought back to the base in chains. Vera was taken to a detention cell while Zira was taken somewhere else. Vera didn't know where, and that scared her more than anything. She sat alone in the cold cell for hours, trying not to think about what might be happening to Zira. Finally, Admiral Brooks came to see her. The Admiral looked tired and angry. "That was incredibly stupid, Commander. You do realize you've ended your career and probably earned yourself several years in prison?" "Yes, ma'am." "I know. And all for a Draken child who isn't even your responsibility." Vera met the Admiral's eyes. "She asked me to be her mother. That made her my responsibility." The Admiral sighed and sat down on the bench across from Vera. The information Zira provided was accurate. The fleet reached New Haven in time to intercept the Draken attack. The battle was fierce, but we stopped them. Preliminary reports suggest we saved at least 2 billion lives, possibly more. Vera felt a wave of relief, followed immediately by guilt. "How many casualties did we take?" 15,000 dead, 40,000 wounded, 18 ships destroyed, 30 more damaged. The Admiral's voice was heavy, a high price. But compared to what would have happened if the Draken had reached the planet's surface, it was a victory. And the Draken losses? Higher than ours. Much higher. We estimate 60,000 dead, possibly more. The Admiral looked at Vera. Because of what a 6-year-old child told us, we were ready for them. They weren't ready for us. Vera felt sick. 60,000 lives. Yes, they were the enemy. Yes, they had come to kill billions. But they were still lives. And Zira's information had helped kill them. "Where is Zira?" Vera asked, in a secure room, comfortable but guarded. She's been crying for you. The Admiral stood up. The Draken Empire has increased pressure for her return. They've made it clear that diplomatic relations depend on us giving her back. Some of the Coalition species are agreeing with them. You can't give her to them. She's a child. I know what she is. The Admiral's voice was sharp. But I also know what political reality is. We're at war, Commander. We need allies. We need to maintain our moral high ground. Keeping a child against her people's wishes makes us look like kidnappers. Her people want to execute her. We don't know that for certain. Yes, we do. You know Draken honor codes as well as I do. She gave information to enemies that led to Draken deaths. They consider that the worst possible betrayal, even from a child. They'll make an example of her. The Admiral was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, I'm trying to find another way. But I need you to understand how limited my options are. The decision might not be mine to make. She left and Vera was alone again. Hours passed. She tried to sleep but couldn't. She kept seeing Zira's face, kept hearing her small voice. She had failed. She had tried to save one child and failed. The next morning, Amy was allowed to visit. She looked exhausted and worried. They're questioning me about the escape. They know I helped create the distraction. Tell them it was all me. Tell them I forced you. I already tried. They don't believe me. Amy sat down heavily. Kyle's in trouble too. They're talking about court-martial for both of us. I'm sorry. You shouldn't be punished for trying to help. We made our choices. Amy smiled sadly. Besides, it was worth it to see Blake's face when you took off. He was so angry I thought he might explode. Despite everything, Vera almost smiled. How is Zira? I saw her earlier. Lisa Barnes is caring for her in the medical wing. She's eating a little, but mostly just crying. She keeps asking for you. Amy's voice broke. Vera, she doesn't understand what's happening. She thinks you abandoned her. Vera felt like she'd been stabbed. Can I see her? They won't let you. Blake's orders. He says you're a bad influence. 2 more days passed. Vera was moved from the detention cell to a slightly less uncomfortable holding room while they processed the charges against her. She was officially charged with desertion, unauthorized use of military resources, and endangering coalition security. The trial would happen within the month. On the 3rd day, the Admiral came back. She looked even more tired than before. I have news, she said, and you're not going to like it. Vera's heart sank. They're giving her back. In 4 days, there will be a formal transfer at a neutral station. Zira will be returned to Draken custody. The Admiral held up a hand before Vera could protest. This decision came from above me, from the Coalition Council itself. I argued against it. I presented every argument I could think of, but the political pressure was too much. So you're sacrificing a child for politics. I'm making an impossible choice in an impossible situation. The Admiral's voice was harsh. Do you think I like this? Do you think I sleep well at night? But if we don't do this, we risk losing allies we desperately need. The war could turn against us. Millions more could die. And one child dies for certain. Yes. That's the price of war, Commander. Sometimes the innocent suffer so that others can live. The Admiral stood up. You're being released from custody temporarily. You may spend time with Zira before the transfer. Consider it a mercy you don't deserve after your stunt. Vera wanted to argue more, but what was the point? The decision was made. Instead, she went to find Zira. The child was in a small room in the medical wing, sitting on a bed and holding her stuffed bear and wooden horse. When Zira saw Vera, she ran to her, crying, Mother! Mother came back. I thought you left me. Vera dropped to her knees and held Zira tight. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I tried to protect you. I know you tried. Zira pulled back and looked at Vera with those trusting yellow eyes. What happens now? Vera couldn't lie to her. They're sending you back to your people. In a few days, Zira went very still. To Draken? Yes, they will hurt me. Because I told you about the attack. I don't know. Maybe they'll understand you were just a child. But Zira shook her head. No, they will hurt me. Father always said traitors must be punished. Even family. Even children. She looked down at her toys. I don't want to go. I know. I don't want you to go either. Vera felt tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Zira. I'm so sorry I couldn't save you. Zira touched Vera's face with her small clawed hand. You tried. You are a good mother. Best mother I could have for these days. She paused. Will you stay with me? Until I have to go? Yes, I'll stay with you every moment, and she did. For the next 3 days, Vera never left Zira's side. They played simple games together. Vera taught her more galactic common words. Zira taught Vera some Draken songs, her high voice beautiful even through her fear. They read picture books together. They made up stories about adventures they would have had if things were different. The entire base went into emergency lockdown. Soldiers ran to battle stations. Weapon systems came online. Admiral Brooks rushed to the command center, shouting orders. Everyone expected the Draken ship to open fire at any moment, but it didn't. It just hung there in space, waiting. Vera stood with Zira in the medical wing, listening to the chaos around them. Zira's whole body had gone stiff when she heard the announcement. "Mother," she whispered. "My real mother?" "I don't know, sweetheart, maybe." Vera's mind raced. If this really was Zira's mother, what did that mean? Was she here to take Zira back for punishment? Or was something else happening? Lisa Barnes came running in. "You need to come to the command center. The Admiral wants you and Zira there now." They hurried through the corridors, escorted by guards who looked nervous and confused. When they reached the command center, Admiral Brooks was standing in front of the main view screen which showed the Draken ship. It was smaller than a warship, maybe a scout vessel, but it bristled with weapons. "Commander Thorne," the Admiral said without turning around. "The Draken ship is demanding to speak with you specifically. They say you're holding their commander's daughter and they want proof of her safety before any negotiations happen." Negotiations? What are they negotiating for? That's what I want to find out. The Admiral finally turned around. Her eyes widened when she saw Zira. "Bring the child forward." Vera walked to stand next to the Admiral, Zira holding her hand tightly. The Admiral opened a communication channel. "This is Admiral Helen Brooks of the Human Coalition Forces. We acknowledge your message. The child you refer to is here and unharmed. We're opening a visual channel now." The view screen flickered and changed. Now, instead of showing the ship from outside, it showed the interior of the Draken vessel's bridge, and standing in the center was the most intimidating Draken Vera had ever seen. She was massive, easily 8.5 feet tall, with deep red scales marked with scars from countless battles. Her horns were long and sharp, decorated with metal bands that looked like military honors. Her claws gleamed like knives. Her eyes were yellow like Zira's but harder, colder. This was a warrior who had killed many times and would kill again without hesitation. But when those eyes found Zira on the screen, they changed. They went soft with something that looked like pain and desperate hope. "Zira?" The Draken warrior's voice was deep and rough, but it shook slightly. "Zira, is that really you?" Zira stared at the screen, her small body trembling. Then she let out a cry that was pure joy and pain mixed together. "Mother, mother, you're alive!" The big warrior's fierce expression crumbled. "My baby, my little one. They told me you were dead. They said you died in the bombing. I've been searching for weeks, and then I heard intelligence reports that a human had taken a Draken child from the ruins. I knew it had to be you. Mother, I missed you so much." Zira was crying now, reaching toward the screen as if she could touch the image. "I was so scared." Cress looked at Vera, and for a moment Vera thought she might attack through the screen with sheer fury. "You, human, what did you do to my daughter?" Vera straightened her shoulders, meeting those fierce eyes. "I protected her. I fed her, healed her injuries, kept her safe. I did what any decent person would do for a child who was alone and terrified. She was not yours to protect. She is Draken. She is mine. She was dying in the ruins. Everyone had left her. I couldn't just leave her there." The two mothers stared at each other across the distance of space. Admiral Brooks stepped forward, her hand on her sidearm. "Commander Cress, you're in human-controlled space without authorization. State your purpose here." Cress tore her eyes away from Vera to look at the Admiral. "My purpose is to take my daughter home. That is all. You understand we cannot simply hand her over. There are protocols, diplomatic considerations. I understand nothing except that you have my child." Cress's voice grew harder. "I am here alone in a small ship surrounded by your forces. I am at your mercy. I'm asking mother to mother, commander to commander, let me have my daughter back." Admiral Brooks looked uncertain. "The situation is complicated. Your daughter provided military intelligence that led to significant Draken casualties. Your own empire has demanded her return for trial." Cress's expression went dark. "I know what my empire wants. They want to make an example of a 6-year-old child. They want to show that betrayal brings death even to the innocent. She looked back at Zira. I will not let that happen. I would rather die fighting all of you than let them touch her. Then what are you proposing? The Admiral asked. Let me take her somewhere safe. Away from the war, away from both our peoples. I have contacts on neutral worlds. Places where she can grow up in peace. Mother, Zira spoke up, her small voice somehow carrying through the tension. The human lady, Vera, she's been my mother while you were gone. She's good. She kept me safe. Cress looked at Vera again, and this time there was something different in her eyes. Not quite trust, but maybe the beginning of respect. Is this true? You cared for her well? I did my best, Vera said. She's special. She's smart and brave and kind. She deserves better than what this war has given her. She deserves everything. Cress was quiet for a moment, and Vera could see her thinking, calculating. Finally, she said something that shocked everyone. I have a proposal. Let the human keep her. What? Vera and the Admiral said at the same time. I am a warrior. I fight on the front lines. My life expectancy is measured in months, maybe weeks. I have no safe home to offer my daughter. Every day I could be killed, and she would be alone again at the mercy of my empire. Cress's voice was steady, but Vera could hear the pain underneath. But you, human. You risked everything for her. You tried to run with her. You faced prison for her. You would protect her. I would, Vera said without hesitation. I absolutely would. Then keep her. Raise her. Give her the peace and safety I cannot. Cress looked at Zira. My little one, would you be willing to stay with the human mother? Would you be brave enough to do that? Zira looked between Vera and her birth mother, tears streaming down her face. But I want both mothers. I want you and Vera. I know, baby, but that's not possible right now. Cress's voice was gentle. The war keeps us apart. But if you stay with Vera, you'll be safe, and I can visit when I can. I can send messages. You'll still be my daughter always, but you'll also have a mother who can actually be there for you. The Admiral stepped forward. This is highly irregular. The Coalition has rules about adopting enemy children. Then change the rules, Cress said, or I'll take my daughter now and run. You can try to stop me, but I promise you, many of your people will die before you succeed. Vera believed her. This was a mother who would burn down the world for her child. She understood that feeling because she felt it too. Please, Vera said to the Admiral, let me do this. I'll resign from the military if I have to. I'll go somewhere neutral, somewhere far from the fighting. Just let me keep her safe. Admiral Brooks looked at all of them, at Vera and Zira, and the fierce Draken warrior on the screen. She closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them, she looked older, more tired. This decision is above my rank. I need to contact the Coalition Council. She looked at Cress. Can you wait? Can you stay in orbit without attacking while we discuss this? I can wait 3 days, no longer. After that, I'm taking my daughter, with or without permission. 3 days. That's all I need. The Admiral cut the communication. The next 3 days were the most stressful of Vera's life. The Admiral argued with the Coalition Council for hours at a time. She showed them recordings of Zira, of her and Vera together, of the intelligence Zira had provided. She made the case that this was a chance for humanity to show mercy, to prove they were better than the empire they fought against. Meanwhile, Cress's ship stayed in orbit, waiting. Vera was allowed to communicate with her, and they had several conversations that were awkward and tense at first, but gradually became something else. She likes dried fruit, Vera told Cress during one call, and she's afraid of loud noises because of the bombing. She has nightmares about fire. Sing to her, Cress said. Old battle songs. They used to calm her when she was smaller. I don't know Draken battle songs, I'll teach you. And she did, her rough voice softening as she sang ancient melodies. Vera recorded them so she could learn them properly. Cress also told Vera about Zira's early life, about her clan, about Draken culture and customs. She'll need to know where she comes from, Cress said. Don't let her forget she's Draken, even if she grows up among humans. I won't. I promise. Zira spent those 3 days with both her mothers in a strange way, talking to Cress on the view screen while sitting in Vera's lap. She taught Vera Draken words and taught Cress some of the human games Vera had shown her. She seemed happier than she had been since Vera found her, even though the uncertainty hung over all of them. On the 3rd day, Admiral Brooks called everyone to the command center. Her expression was unreadable. "I've received word from the Coalition Council," she said. "They've made their decision." Vera held Zira close, barely breathing. On the view screen, Cress stood rigid, ready to fight if the answer was wrong. "They've agreed to an unprecedented arrangement," the Admiral. Millbrook was a small colony world, green and peaceful, far from the war zones. It had been established decades ago as neutral territory, a place where different species could live together without the conflicts that plagued the rest of the galaxy. Humans, Draken, and half a dozen other species called it home, though none in great numbers. Vera found a small house on the edge of the main settlement, nothing fancy but comfortable. It had 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, and a yard where Zira could play. For the first few weeks, everything felt strange. Vera had spent her entire adult life in the military, following orders and fighting battles. Now she had to learn how to be a civilian, how to be a full-time mother. It wasn't easy. Zira had nightmares, almost every night waking up screaming about fire and bombs. She was afraid of loud sounds, flinching whenever a door slammed or a transport ship flew overhead. She missed her birth mother terribly and cried herself to sleep sometimes. But there were good moments too. Zira loved exploring the forest near their house, climbing trees with her natural grace. She was fascinated by the small animals, spending hours watching birds and insects. She made friends with a human boy named Peter who lived nearby, and his mother was kind enough to explain that Zira was a refugee from the war, asking her son to be gentle with her. Vera got messages from Cress every few days. The Draken warrior sent recordings of herself telling stories, singing songs, teaching Zira about their culture and history. Sometimes the messages were short, recorded during brief breaks in combat. Sometimes they were longer, more thoughtful. Cress talked about her hopes for peace, about wanting Zira to grow up in a better world. "I'm fighting now, so she doesn't have to fight later," Cress said in one message. "Every battle I win, every enemy ship I destroy, brings us closer to ending this war. Then I can come get her and we can be a real family again." Vera always let Zira watch these messages as many times as she wanted. She made sure Zira never forgot her birth mother, even as they built their own life together. 3 months after, arriving on Millbrook, something happened that changed everything. Vera was working in the garden while Zira played nearby when her communication device beeped with an urgent message. It was from Admiral Brooks. "Commander Thorne, we have a situation. Draken Empire Intelligence has located you and Zira on Millbrook. They're sending a team to retrieve her. You have approximately 6 hours before they arrive. I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do to stop them. You're in neutral territory, and we have no jurisdiction there." Vera's blood went cold. 6 hours. She grabbed Zira and ran inside, her mind racing. They needed to leave, needed to run again. But where? If the Draken could find them on Millbrook, they could find them anywhere. She tried to contact Cress, but there was no response. Cress was probably in battle, unable to answer. Vera was on her own. She packed quickly, throwing clothes and supplies into bags. Zira watched with wide, frightened eyes. "What's happening?" "The bad Draken are coming for you. We have to go." "Where?" "I don't know yet. Somewhere they can't find us." Vera pulled out her old military communication device and scrolled through contacts, looking for anyone who might help. Luis Martinez, the smuggler who had tried to help them before. Maybe he could get them off-world before the Draken arrived. She sent him an urgent message and waited, counting the minutes. 4 hours left. 3.5. 3. Finally, Luis responded. "I'm 2 systems away. I can't reach you in time. I'm sorry, Vera." 2 hours left. Vera grabbed a weapon from her hidden storage, a pistol she had kept from her military days. It wouldn't be enough against a team of Draken warriors, but it was better than nothing. She tried to think like a soldier again. What were her options? She could hide in the forest, but the Draken had better tracking abilities than humans.